Hi guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads. Today is gonna be a 3-in-1 video. I'll attempt it because I want to do my September wrap-up. I've been very consistent with the wrap-ups this year and I want to keep doing that, but I only finished 3 books in September, which is perfectly fine because one of them is actually a 5-star book. So either way, it was a great reading month for me because I discovered a new favorite. But because I have been traveling last month and that impacted my reading, I thought it's also quite fitting for me to answer the questions from the Traveling with Books tag, because the lovely Gloria tagged me in this one, and I'm gonna leave her channel down below. I absolutely love her channel for historical fiction and like picture book recommendations. And lastly, I want to show you guys the 5 books that I picked for my fall reading TBR. So the books that I want to read in between the months of October and November. Okay, so the books that I read in September. I will start with the one that I gave 5 stars to. It is Taste by Stanley Tucci. So this is a memoir by the actor of his life told through food. I don't know why I'm surprised, because this is the second memoir that is based on food experience that I gave 5 stars to. The first one was by Julia Child, My Life in France, and now it's this one. If you've watched the Julie and Julia movie, and you know that Stanley Tucci actually also had a role as Paul Child in that movie, so it's kind of connected. In short, I should read more food memoirs because apparently they're 5 stars for me. So this is an amazing memoir that starts with Stanley Tucci's upbringing in an Italian immigrant household, the food that he ate as a child, up to him now being an adult, being married, having kids of his own, and even going through an illness that is also impacting his food and nourishment experience in life, which I had absolutely no clue that that happened to him actually, and that he had to overcome that. So that was interesting and quite emotional. It's an amazing memoir. I was salivating at the food descriptions. I love the recipes, especially family recipes that included in there. He also talks a bit about cocktails, and I really like how he also included real restaurant experiences in there. Delicious to listen to. I already cooked the zucchini pasta recipe that he was talking about from the restaurant on the Amalfi Coast. What is the name? Is it Lo Scoglio? Something like that. It was delicious, and next time I go to the Amalfi Coast, I have to visit that restaurant. It is so lovely how he tells his family anecdotes through food experiences. Because he's an actor, you do kind of expect some kind of name dropping in there, which he does, but not to a point where it gets annoying. It's actually sprinkled in there really nicely. But obviously what really made it for me is the food writing. I listened to it as an audiobook, which is a great experience because I love listening to his voice. It's more personable, and I have to say I also listened to it at the exact right time because I did it while we were traveling to and within Italy. I don't know if I clearly mentioned that, but this book is about the Italian cuisine. I finished it while we were in Rome, so on our flight back, I actually watched the complete first season of Searching for Italy. So it is the Stanley Tucci food documentary that takes place in Italy, where he travels through the different, do you call them provinces or territories, and where he discovers different ingredients and traditional recipes. And I cannot wait to watch season 2. A clear 5 stars for me, and I am gonna pick up a physical copy of this just so that I can also look through some of the recipes. Then I read a sci-fi book that was part of my summer TBR, which is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I wasn't sure what to expect. It is quite a long book. For a book being so science heavy, it is quite fast paced. And I now see why his works are very popular amongst the crowd. For the topic being so serious, the writing is kept very like easy breezy, relaxed, filled with jokes. That's kind of the vibe. So this book is basically about Dr. Grace, who one day wakes up on board of a spaceship with absolutely no recollection of why he's there or what happened. His 2 other crewmates are dead, and he has to piece everything back together. And without giving anything away, it turns out that he's being sent out on a mission to save the world. I have absolutely no science background, so I cannot speak to the accuracy of all the information that is dumped on you in this book, but I was left with a feeling of being in awe of people who dedicate their life to science, so scientists. Yeah, just hard to wrap my head around the intelligence that some people possess to do things like space exploration. If you read the book, you know that there's one huge element that he discovers while he's out in space, which I completely did not expect. And I thought it was well executed in why they went there. I didn't expect to feel emotional about it either. So I thought that was a cool element. It's a plot twist, so I'm not gonna go into it, but it is there and I really liked it. But I was left with so many questions, obviously, on, you know, what happened after the story ends. And also, I was not the biggest fan of the way the flashbacks were executed. I thought that there's this one person in particular who basically holds all the power in the world at the time of when these flashbacks were going down, that I was just like, okay, I mean, how realistic is this? It was kind of like, okay, this one person who can do it all. So I gave this, I think, a 3-star rating out of 5. So it was a good reading experience, but it is not a favorite. And it's also not necessarily the sci-fi book that I would recommend to people who want to get into that genre. But nevertheless, I am now very keen on reading The Martian. Lastly, I finished Dead to Her by Sarah Pinborough. I just found this book on a whim on my Libby app as an audiobook. I listened to it. And the reason why I picked it up is because I was looking for some kind of like thriller or mystery to listen to, because that's what I was in the mood for. If you've watched a few of my previous videos, you know how much I adored Behind Her Eyes by this author. And I thought, you know what? I really liked that book. Why not try a second one by this author? And unfortunately, I think I gave it a 1.5 out of 5 stars. It was a total miss. This doesn't happen a lot, but this is one of the books where the idea behind it wasn't for me and the execution wasn't great either. So yeah, it was unfortunately just not a good combination. So this book takes place in Savannah, so in the South. We are looking at a group of, you know, basically blue-blooded elder people who run the town. You have Marcy, who's a second wife who doesn't come from this kind of circle. She's in her mid-30s. Who enters the stage is Keisha. She's the new second wife who's younger and hotter than her, and she starts feeling insecure about her. And she starts suspecting that Keisha is having an affair with her husband. I don't think this is technically a thriller. It's more of a mystery and suspense novel. This mix about these like wealthy families in Savannah, and then this, I don't want to give anything away in case you want to read it, this element in there that they put as like a surprise. It really didn't mix for me at all. The characters were all just awful caricatures. There was absolutely no fun in reading about them either. Like, a character doesn't have to be a good person in order for me to like them, but you kind of have to be like, you know, rooting for them and understanding where they come from, or just like having fun reading about the stuff that they do and the mistakes they make. The ending also just kind of came out of left field. There was a bunch of information that contributed to like the resolution, which was never ever revealed beforehand. It was just alluded to, but it could have been literally anything because it was all just in the end. This one was really not great, and to be honest, I don't think I would recommend it to anybody. Just read Behind Her Eyes instead. Those were the 3 books that I managed to read in September. Now on to the traveling with books tag questions. So it's just 6 questions. Well, technically it's 7, but the 7th is tag some travelers, which I will skip that one because I don't know any booktubers who have traveled or are going to travel, to be honest. So if you're watching this and you recently traveled, or you're planning on traveling anytime soon or next year, please feel free to answer either in the comments below or make a video about it. Question 1 is, do you read when you travel? For sure. Question 2, do you travel with paper, physical books? Generally, yes, I will try to bring at least 1 physical book with me. And now that I have my Libby app, I have access to all the audiobooks that are available through my library. And also, I can technically read ebooks on my phone. It's not the best reading experience, but if you're in a pinch, it's no problem. I actually did that. 3, do you travel with an e-reader? Unfortunately, no, I do not have an e-reader or an iPad. which now that I've been using my sister's iPad to read all the time, so I've really been getting into ebooks this year. I am thinking of getting an iPad because of that. That and because it has so many other functions opposed to just having an e-reader where you can just read books on. And I wish I had her iPad while traveling, but I didn't. How many books do you pack when you travel? Well, I do try to be reasonable, so usually I'll just stick to one because, you know, when you're traveling, you're usually out and about, discovering the city, talking to people, meeting family and friends, whatever. So you don't have that much time to read unless, now that I think about it, it depends on the vacation, right? Unless you're going somewhere on purpose where you want to, let's say, chill on the beach all day and you have 6 hours a day to read, then that's different. But in my case, and during my last travel, I knew that I wouldn't have a lot of time reading, so I just packed one. 5, does where you go or how long you're traveling impact the amount or type of books that you take? I guess I kind of just answered that. Plus, obviously, it depends on your baggage allowance. If you have a lot, then obviously you can pack 2 or 3 books. That's what I would do at least. And for the type of book, I usually go with something more lighthearted. If it's something like a dense classic, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily pick it up and then I probably brought it for nothing. Whereas something light and breezy, I can just, you know, if I have 10 minutes before going to bed, I will most likely read it. 6, do you buy books when traveling or visit bookshops or libraries? For sure, if I can. So definitely visiting bookshops and libraries, that's a huge yes. Buying books, well, ideally I would buy a book from each country that I visit. But for example, for my last travel, I was so constricted in the baggage allowance that I had that I didn't buy any books, which thinking back now, I wish I had just left the romance book that I brought in where we were and bought like an English translated book from a Romanian author or Italian author instead. This is definitely something I would seek out if I know that there's a really nice bookshop or a library in that city. I will most likely make it part of my itinerary. What are your answers for these questions? Leave them down below. All right, so now getting into my autumn TBR. So I kept it very short. There's only 5 books on there because I still have, I think, 1 left from my spring TBR and 2 left from my summer TBR, and I want to be realistic about it. I don't want to be left with like 20 books towards the end of the year because I was too ambitious. Let's start with the 2 middle grade books that I have on my list. The first one is Percy Jackson by Rick Riordan. This is a well-loved series. I think there's going to be a new Disney Plus series coming out, and I actually got this one for my birthday in the summer from my 2 sisters. One of my sisters already read this. She really likes it. It is like a middle grade adventure book about a boy named Percy who discovers that he is a demigod. Somebody stole Zeus's lightning bolt and he kind of becomes involved in it. I actually just finished this one already. I liked it. I will read the second book. Then I really want to get to Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This is one of my favorite books. I have read this a few times already, at least 3-4 times I would say. I kind of made it a goal to like buy all the different editions, and then whenever I buy a new cover edition, I will reread it, and I don't even have a copy here with me in Canada, so it's been a while. This is a creepy and eerie book, a perfect fall read. So this is about Coraline, who moves to a new city with her parents. She's kind of neglected, she's a bit bored, her parents don't pay a lot of attention. One day in their creepy new apartment, she discovers a tiny door, and she opens that tiny door, goes to the end of the tunnel, and there she lands in basically a parallel world where everything seems absolutely perfect. Her parents are like new people with the addition of buttons for eyes. So honestly, this is a must read. You will probably see this in my top 10 books for fall that I'm planning on filming. Definitely pick this up for fall. It will give you the creeps, I'd say, even though it's middle grade. Then a book that was released this year is The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentile. So this is about a murder that happens in the library. They basically hear something like a scream, and then they close up the library super fast, and so stuck inside are 4 people. Anybody of these people could be the murderer. So from what I heard, I don't know too much and I want to leave it like that, is that this is also kind of a book in book or meta experience. So I'm not sure what to expect, but books like Whoa really hyped it up for me. So it's on my TBR and I'm excited for it. Then I have a more serious book, which is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I know that Karen Slaughter is apparently a hard-hitting author. Like, this is not to be taken lightly. This is a very heavy thriller, I suppose. So the description for this is very short as well, which I love. So apparently 20 years ago, Claire Scott's bigger sister Julia went missing. Nobody knew what happened. And then in the present time, another girl goes missing and she thinks it's connected. It's a very like basic storyline, but I know that this is probably gonna be gut-wrenching. I don't know if Karen Slaughter is gory, but I heard some examples where it's like she doesn't shy away from blood. And lastly, I have Pearl from Josh Malerman. I have read one book by this author before, which was Bird Box, which was actually quite good. And Pearl, I randomly discovered out in my library section. Something about the cover just really drew me in and I thought, okay, this looks kind of spooky. And then I read the back of the book, or like the description, and it gave me absolutely nothing, which I find very, very intriguing if you haven't noticed yet. So in the description, it basically says, go to the farm just outside of town and you'll hear it, a voice inside your head, or is it? A voice that makes you want to pick up that axe over in the corner of the barn and swing it and kill. It is the voice of Pearl. That is all it says. It's interesting because I know that there's a horror movie that just came out that is called Pearl, which I think is unrelated. So this sounds very mysterious and it looks like this could be a horror slasher book. So this was my 3-in-1 video. Do not forget to leave me your answers to the traveling with books tag questions below. I'm really curious. And let me know, what was your favorite book in September? Did you discover a new favorite like I did? Or possibly a new favorite series? And also, what book are you looking most forward to reading this fall? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later.